Honor, Anthony here on behalf of the people.
Scott Kozak on behalf of the defendant, Your Honor.
Date and time set for sentencing. Have you had an opportunity to review the PSI? Any objections, corrections, deletions to it?
We have, Your Honor, and there are no additions, deletions, or corrections aside from a couple of typographical errors, but I think they're not at
Okay.
issue.
Anything else?
Judge,
Did you give the typos to Mr. Kaplan already?
I think everything was may have been one typo, and it was Stroy instead of Story.
Okay.
That's not a big deal, Judge. As far as elocution, Your Honor,
I think you're going.
am I ahead of the
going
game?
first. Go ahead.
There's no additions or deletions that Your Honor. And there'll be a couple family members that are going to speak when the time's appropriate.
This is it. Oh, yeah. Ma'am, you need to speak to me.
Oh, I'm
Okay,
sorry.
That's all right. Could you please,
Even though I,
she knows you're talking to her, but I
Okay.
need you to look at me.
okay,
All right. Could you please tell me your name?
Linda Murray.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Amanda, maybe instead of looking for the easy way to get a house with a big yard, and if you and your husband had worked as hard as my husband did, you might have had one without planning to rob us and getting my husband killed. May you get the punishment you deserve for robbing me of the love of my life and the father of my children.
Is that everything you want to say? Are you
Yes.
sure?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. I know someone else who would like to speak.
I will, Your Honor. Good morning, Your Honor, and thank you for this opportunity. I've really struggled with this a little bit because I'm not even sure that Ms. Hernandez deserves any words to be said to her. We've been in this court many times. She hasn't even had the decency to look at us once, as if we've wronged her instead of them wronging us. But I do think I have things that I need to say. My father, Hussein Murray, came to this country from Lebanon with nothing. He grew up poor, didn't speak the language, and maybe had a couple of $100 to start a life. But he refused to let his disadvantages hold him back, and he worked hard, harder than anyone I've ever seen or known, to succeed. To him, success wasn't acquiring material things for himself, but being the best provider that he could for his family. He did that along with my mother over their 54-year marriage by giving their all and helping people when they needed it. He loved his family with his whole heart.
Could you tell me your name again?
Mohit Murray, I'm his middle son. He loved his family with his whole heart. That's how he was. For the things that were important to him, he gave them everything he had. He was a proud father of 3 sons, a father-in-law to 3 great women, and perhaps proudest of all, a grandfather to 11 grandchildren, excuse me. Without exaggeration, I can say that nothing gave him more joy than seeing my brother's families all together. Our family would gather at my parents' house almost every Sunday for dinner. In the couple of years before he was murdered, because of the grandkids' schedules, it was harder and harder for us to all be there every Sunday. But on the Sunday before he was murdered, 5 days before he was murdered, we managed for the first time to all be together at the house, at my parents' house, for a dinner to celebrate my niece's birthday. We had a house full of love and laughter, but my father in particular was beaming. He was so full of happiness to have everyone there. We were all commenting to each other about how we hadn't seen him that happy in a long time. Little did I know, and little did we know, that would be the last time I'd see my father. Little did any of us know that at the same time, my father was overjoyed by our togetherness. Ms. Hernandez and her co-conspirators were plotting their scheme. Their scheme to invade my parents' home and take what they spent a lifetime to build. Their scheme to attack them and take what wasn't theirs, knowing it could end up in murder. When I heard the text messages that were exchanged between the conspirators in the days leading up to their crime being read out in court in the other trial, I literally felt sick. Ms. Hernandez said she hoped that she could get enough to get a house, and she was only worried about what might happen to her husband and the other co-conspirator, but not the people whose house they were invading. How much arrogance and callousness does it take to think like that? My parents worked hard and sacrificed for decades to build a life. They just wanted to steal it for themselves rather than work for it, regardless of who might get hurt or killed. The truth is, though, regardless of what they could have even conceivably stolen, we lost much more than that because of Ms. Hernandez and her co-conspirators. Just one example. My son's name is also Hussein Murray. He is my father. He is my father and mother's eldest grandchild, and he's probably my father's namesake. He got married on Sunday to a wonderful woman who we are so happy to have in our family. But because of them, my father never got the chance to meet her or be at the wedding. I can say without a doubt there's nothing more he would have wanted to see more in his life. And they deprived him of that. They deprived my son of being able to hug his grandfather on his wedding day, and they deprived his other grandchildren of the same thing for their futures. They deprived us all of having a great man in our lives ever again. I don't think I can describe what it was like trying to get ready for a wedding and think of what I was going to say to my son, while at the same time think about what I would say here today. And making it all the worse is the rage inside of me from seeing Ms. Hernandez so many times in court, and again today without even the guts to look at us. None of them have shown even the smallest bit of remorse or shame for what they did. They're all disgusting excuses for human beings. Ms. Hernandez will get out someday, but my mother will never have her husband or peace of mind back. I and my brothers will never have my father back. Our children will never have the grandfather back. And everyone who knew and loved my father is going to have a hole in their hearts forever. She wouldn't look at us before. Maybe she'll look now and face what she did. Maybe she'll look at the family that's broken because of what she did. Maybe she'll look in the mirror and face what she is. And maybe that'll have some effect on her. But based on what I've seen and heard, I doubt it. I believe in God. And maybe somehow, someday, she'll repent for what she did and get some mercy. Earthly justice isn't perfect. She'll never get as much time as she actually deserves. But God's justice is not imperfect. Her real day of reckoning will come, and I hope that she thinks about how she wants to face it. Thank you, Your Honor.
First of all, thank you so much for being here. Who is behind you?
This is my brother Rahif, my younger brother, my older brother Abdu.
I appreciate you being here. Seeing your older brother cry shows the legacy that your dad gave and that your mom continues to, that they're able to show emotions, which has nothing to do with being masculine. It has to do with being a human being and missing someone. And I agree, I can't imagine going from your son's wedding from last weekend to here. And you did an excellent job, and I think you did your family very proud. Thank you so much for being here, and I'm so sorry for your
Thank you,
loss.
Judge. Thank you.
I'd just like to say a few words, Your Honor. I'm Rahif Murray. I'm the son of, youngest son of deceased. Here we are, almost 2 years later, and hasn't gotten really any easier. It's not a day that goes by that I feel an intense loss and pain in my heart. That whenever I think about my father, there's always the stain of his murder and the suffering he went through, and him choking on his own blood, and him being bludgeoned to death in the basement alone, worrying about what's going to happen to my mother after whatever's happening to him. I can't even imagine what that felt like for him, and that's something that I can't let go of. And while no matter what length Ms. Hernandez's sentence is, that sentence will end, and our pain and suffering will never end. Our loss is immense. My father was not somebody who was a 1 or 2 times a year grandfather. He was an everyday grandfather. That, basically we lived 2 streets over. We saw him every day. And nobody tells you when you lose something like this that not only is there the emotional pain, but someone turns up the difficulty setting on life about 10 degrees. and everything just gets harder. So I would just like the court to take into account that our suffering will never end, and that should be something that is accounted for, I think, when Mr. Hernandez says something. Thank you.
I appreciate that. I understand. Thank you very much. All right, now Mr. Kozak.
Thank you, Your Honor. Judge, and maybe I owe an apology to the family because my instructions to my client from the beginning of this case were to have no contact, and that meant no eye contact, no verbal contact, nothing. So if she wasn't making eye contact, that's on my instructions, not on her own volition. Just keep your head down, move forward. That being said, I've talked to my client about the possibility that she would say something today. I think her anxiety is going to prohibit her from doing so, but we did have some long discussions, not only during the PSI, but during the pendency of this case, and I think we agreed that nothing she could say today would ever be adequate in any way, shape, or form. Nothing that she does moving forward, the time that she's going to do, the efforts that she makes could ever replace a father and certainly a husband and a grandfather in any way, shape, or form. She knows that. She's expressed that to me more than enough. She's hopes that her prayers to the family are heard. That's the only thing that she can do at this point in time. And I know that if she were to have the ability to rewind time and change all this, she would. She can't, obviously, and this is not for her. I don't think. I think her remorse is clear, at least based on my discussions with her, and I think moving forward, I think the sentence that the court agreed to and the COBs that the court agreed to is appropriate, and the amount of time she's going to be serving is appropriate. She will be on a parole term after that, and she will have. I'm sorry, the court looks like you have.
You all had an agreement as to bottom of guidelines. Correct?
It was a COBs, Your Honor.
It was COBs. We knew what the guidelines were. I made sure they were calculated properly, and nothing is surprising.
Caught me off guard, Judge. I apologize.
Sure.
But no, this was a COBs. I think it's appropriate. I think counsel and I agreed that this was appropriate under the circumstances. No one wanted to retry this case, certainly. But I'm asking the court to adopt the COBs agreement at this point in time, knowing that she's going to be serving a period of time. She's serving that away from her family, certainly away from her son, who is going to feel that more than anybody else. And I think that's going to leave an impact as well, Your Honor.
Ms. Hernandez, do you have anything to say today?
I just want to say that I do have my deepest sympathies with the family. Like my lawyer said, he did tell me to just keep my head down and everything. I regret every choice I've made since 2022 of marrying my husband and knowing who he was, and so.
Okay. So you take some responsibility. I have to admit, I didn't know anything about the case beyond what the general public knew, just from watching it on news reports. DT people posing as DT workers got into a home and someone was killed. It's when I read the PSI, because again, I didn't preside over the murder trial. The text messages, Carlos is your husband?
Yes.
Text messages between you and Carlos on your phone, September 27th, 2024. Amanda, be careful and come home. IDC, I assume means I don't care if you come home with nothing. I read that as that you knew what was going to happen. You knew that they were going to go into someone's home and take something that doesn't belong to them. 9/28/24. Carlos is speaking about wanting to get a service light for a vehicle. A service light for a vehicle. So you know that he's trying to pose as some worker. At 11:57 hours, Amanda again states, be careful even if you leave with nothing. At 11:58 hours, Amanda then states, and I'm fascinated, all this is in text messages. What if he's not home? At 12:44 hours, Amanda writes, turn phone off when you're out, just in case. At 13:31 hours, Amanda writes, I'm so nervous, but you guys seem to have it down, and I feel better now that you have a good getaway car. 9:30:24, September 3rd, 24. At 1:03 hours, Amanda writes, quote, and make Yogi take it, do be doing all the work. At 1:05 hours, Amanda writes, makes me mad, it's all on you, 'cause you're the brains and it doesn't say what else. At 1:42 hours, Amanda writes, I know you're not gonna take a actual DTE car. Apparently all these messages were sent in the time frame of the theft of the truck that was used in the crime, as well as the stolen DTE plate. October 1/24, you write, the badges were delivered. October 8, 2025, you send a link to Carlos for custom ID badge. Carlo responds, something like that, no pictures. He later writes a name to put on Yogi's, as well as stating making him an inspector also. You reply, I did. Later that same day, Carlos and Amanda both participate in a conversation of obtaining enough money to purchase their own home. October 9, 2024, at 22:42 hours, Carlos sends Amanda the address, an address in Detroit, close to where Amanda is picking up Carlos and someone else and admitting to that in your interview. At October 10, 2024, which is the date of the first visit to the victim's residence, you write, you guys are gonna go this late? You further write, remember what I said, shit seems weird, GTFO. You further write, we can go punch Mexicans. At 2016, you write, wear a mask when you get close. At 2022, you write, you put the magnets on. At 2041, Carlos again sends the address in Detroit, to which you respond, quote, that's where I go to get the food. This correlates to the area where you pick up Carlos and Zuazo. At 12:29, you write, you need me to pick you up. He responds, yes. We did good though. At 22:07, you write, be there in 12 minutes. So that's on the date that he basically goes in to the first time into the Murray home. October 11th, the next day, which is the date of the homicide, at 9:17, Carlos writes to you, put the hard hats on the porch, please. You respond, okay. At 9:19 hours, you write, when do you this? I'll have to do that in like 2 hours. At 12:05, writes, here, correlates the video evidence of you picking up your husband and his co-conspirator. At 15:43, you write Carlos a link to WXYZ Channel 7 story regarding the homicide. At 15:57, you write, what do you want to do? He says, we need to leave. You write at 15:58 hours, we need to get you out of here faster, followed by, we don't have the money to do it. So, September 24th, 2024, you did a search for DT vehicles. On October 7, 2024, you do a search for DTE ID badges, DTE gas leak checklist, and a search for a copy of a waiver letter. October 9, 2024, you make multiple searches of the victim's address, as well as property record searches of other residents on the same street. I didn't realize there's so much detail was involved in your involvement, and the defendant's description of the offense. When asked about the offense, the defendant stated, I guess I married the wrong person. I was left speechless at that statement, because I put the hard hats on the porch. You could have easily followed up that with, and I'm making a call to the police to tell them what you're planning. You look for ID badges. You told them that. Could have followed that up with, I made a call to the police to tell them what you're planning. You may have married the wrong person, but you were wholly involved in this. Wholly involved in this. You took some responsibility for the first time today, which is the only reason I'll go with the agreement. You may have married the wrong person, but you had zero problem making those searches, picking him up, making clear what was going on, and maybe panicked when you realized it went away you didn't think it was going. I don't know how you're gonna live with yourself. You'll get out eventually. But you are not an innocent victim. You are all in on this. And like I said, I had no idea. And exactly the extent to which was happening here. That's something you're gonna have to look at. Court having viewed the probation department's report and recommendation, recognizing his discretion, recognizing the guidelines are advisory in nature, does sentence you to 57 months to 20 years in the Michigan Department of Corrections. Count 197 days jail credit. Count 2, 1 year to 5 years in Michigan Department of Corrections, 197 days jail credit. Count 3, 1 year to 2 years in Michigan Department of Corrections, 197 days jail credit. $204 state cost, $100 crime victims fee, no contact with Linda Murray or any member of her family, no contact with Carlos Hernandez and Joshua Zuazo. And when I say no contact, not that I think that you're seeking any contact, I don't want anyone contacting any member of the Murray family by email, phone call, letter, pigeon card, nothing. They're gonna move on with their lives because they have a strong family unit and they will be able to do that. But you aren't gonna be any part of it, and I don't want you even expressing any remorse to them. They don't want anything to do with you. Counsel, if you could please acknowledge, the 40 days to effectuate appeal. If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be appointed for appeal by leave. This is a plea of guilt. Counsel, if you could please acknowledge.
We acknowledge this, Your Honor. Thank you.